Love on the vineyard. Sarah had always loved wine. Even as a child, she would sneak sips from her parents' glasses at dinner, delighting in the rich, complex flavors. As she grew older, her passion for wine deepened, and she pursued a career as a sommelier, immersing herself in the intricacies of grape varieties, fermentation techniques, and food pairings. At 28 years old, Sarah was at the top of her game. She had just been hired as the head sommelier at one of the finest restaurants in Napa Valley, California, and she was determined to make a name for herself in the competitive world of wine. It was during the harvest season that Sarah first met Jake. She had heard about him before. Of course, everyone in the industry knew about Jake, the young winemaker who had taken the region by storm with his bold, innovative wines. Sarah had seen him at tastings and competitions, but they had never spoken before. They were both at the same vineyard, working with the same grapes, when they first locked eyes. Jake was tall and ruggedly handsome, with piercing blue eyes and a rakish smile. Sarah felt a jolt of electricity run through her as she gazed at him, and she realized with a start that she was attracted to him. Jake must have felt it too, because he strode over to her with a grin on his face. "Hello there," he said, holding out his hand. "I'm Jake." Sarah took his hand and shook it firmly. "Sarah," she said. They chatted for a few minutes, exchanging pleasantries and discussing the grapes they were working with. Sarah found herself drawn to Jake's easy charm and his deep knowledge of winemaking. He was confident and self-assured, but not arrogant or obnoxious. She sensed that they had a lot in common, both professionally and personally. Over the next few days, Sarah and Jake worked closely together, tasting different batches of wine, experimenting with blends, and discussing their respective approaches to winemaking. They discovered that they had a natural chemistry, a playful banter that made their work feel less like a job and more like a fun adventure. But despite their growing attraction, Sarah and Jake were also aware of the professional rivalry between them. They were both determined to produce the best wine possible, and they knew that only one of them could come out on top. They were respectful of each other, but there was an underlying tension that simmered beneath the surface. One evening, after a long day of work, Jake suggested that they take a break and explore the vineyard. Sarah agreed, and they set off on a leisurely stroll through the rows of grapevines. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the hills, and the air was thick with the scent of fermenting grapes. They talked about their families, their hopes and dreams, and their shared love of wine. Sarah found herself opening up to Jake in a way that she never had before, sharing her deepest fears and insecurities. Jake listened attentively, offering words of encouragement and support. As they reached the top of a hill overlooking the vineyard, Jake turned to Sarah and said, "You know, I think we make a pretty good team. Maybe we should consider collaborating on a wine together." Sarah's heart leapt at the suggestion. She knew that a joint project with Jake would be a huge opportunity for her career, and it would also give her an excuse to spend more time with him. She smiled and said, "I think that's a great idea." Over the next few days, Sarah and Jake worked on their new project together, experimenting with different blends and fermentation techniques. As they worked side by side, Sarah and Jake's attraction to each other grew stronger. They found themselves stealing glances at each other, their eyes lingering a little too long, their touches a little too lingering. One afternoon, while they were sampling a particularly promising batch of wine, Jake leaned in and kissed Sarah. It was a soft, gentle kiss, but it sent shockwaves through Sarah's body. She felt as though she was floating on air, as though nothing else in the world mattered except this moment. For a while, they simply stood there, wrapped up in each other's arms, their lips pressed together. It was as though time had stopped, as though the world had ceased to exist around them. Eventually, they pulled apart, their faces flushed with excitement and anticipation. "I've been wanting to do that for days," Jake said, grinning. Sarah laughed. "Me too." From that moment on, they were inseparable. They spent every spare moment together, exploring the vineyards, tasting different wines, and simply enjoying each other's company. Sarah had never felt so alive, so free, so happy. But as much as they enjoyed each other's company, Sarah and Jake knew that they couldn't ignore the professional rivalry between them forever. They were both ambitious, driven, and fiercely competitive, and they knew that only one of them could come out on top. One evening, after a particularly intense day of work, they sat down to dinner together at a small bistro in town. Over a bottle of Jake's latest vintage, they talked about their fears and doubts. Sarah confided in Jake that she was afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of getting hurt. Jake revealed that he had been in love before, but that the relationship had ended badly, leaving him skeptical of love. As they talked, they realized that their rivalry was rooted in their own insecurities and fears. They were both so focused on being the best, on winning, that they had lost sight of what was really important, their love for each other. In the days that followed, Sarah and Jake worked together to produce their prize-winning vintage. They put their hearts and souls into it, pouring all of their passion and creativity into the wine. And when they finally tasted it, they knew that they had created something truly special. On the night of the big competition, Sarah and Jake were both nervous, but also excited. They stood side by side, holding hands, as the judges tasted their wine. And when the results were announced, they both erupted into cheers. They had won, together. As they celebrated their victory, Sarah and Jake looked into each other's eyes and knew that they had found something special. They had found love, yes, but they had also found a shared passion, a common goal, and a sense of purpose. They knew that they would face challenges in the years ahead, but they also knew that they had each other, and that was enough. As they stood together in the vineyard, surrounded by the golden hues of the autumn leaves and the lush grapevines, Sarah and Jake realized that they were at the beginning of a new journey. A journey that would be filled with adventure, excitement, and love, and they couldn't wait to see where it would take them. They walked through the vineyard, hand in hand, and came to a stop at a secluded corner. Jake turned to Sarah and took both her hands in his. "Sarah, I know we haven't known each other for very long, but I feel like I've known you forever. You're an amazing woman, and I'm so lucky to have met you." Sarah felt her heart swell with emotion. She knew what was coming next, and she couldn't wait to hear it. Jake took a deep breath and continued, "I know that we both have our own fears and doubts, but I want to take a chance on us. I want to be with you, Sarah. Will you be my girlfriend?" Tears of joy sprang to Sarah's eyes, and she nodded fervently. "Yes, Jake. Yes, I will." They hugged each other tightly, their bodies pressed together, and Sarah knew that she had found the one. The one who understood her, who challenged her, who loved her for who she was. As they walked back to the winery, arm in arm, Sarah couldn't help but smile. She knew that they had a lot of hard work ahead of them, but she also knew that they had something special. Something that would carry them through the tough times, and make the good times even sweeter. As the sun set over the vineyard, casting a warm golden glow over everything, Sarah and Jake knew that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Together, in the place where their shared passion had brought them together. And as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that they had found something worth fighting for. Love on the vineyard was a journey that had taken them both by surprise, but it was a journey that they would cherish for the rest of their lives. Months passed, and Sarah and Jake's relationship only grew stronger. They continued to work together on different winemaking projects, each bringing their own unique expertise to the table. They faced challenges along the way, but they always managed to work through them together. As their love for each other deepened, Sarah and Jake also started to think about their future. They talked about starting their own vineyard someday, a place where they could combine their passion for wine with their love for each other. One day, Jake surprised Sarah with a special gift, a plot of land in the heart of Napa Valley, where they could start their own vineyard. Sarah was overjoyed, and together they began the process of building their dream. It was hard work, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Sarah and Jake poured all of their energy into their new vineyard, working long hours and making sacrifices to see it succeed. But they also made time for each other, taking breaks to stroll through the vineyard or share a glass of wine under the stars. And as the years passed, their vineyard grew and flourished, just like their love for each other. They became known for their award-winning wines, their beautiful vineyard, and their inspiring love story. They were interviewed by magazines and newspapers, and people came from all over the world to taste their wines and hear their story. But to Sarah and Jake, the most important thing was their love for each other. They had faced their fears and doubts, overcome their past hurts, and found something truly special. They had found a love that was worth fighting for, a love that had brought them together on the vineyard and carried them through the highs and lows of life. And as they stood together in the vineyard, watching the sunset over the hills, Sarah and Jake knew that their love story was just beginning. They knew that they had a lifetime of adventures and challenges ahead of them, but they also knew that they had each other. And that was all they needed. In the end, Sarah and Jake's love had brought them together in a way that neither of them could have ever imagined. Through their shared passion for winemaking and their determination to succeed, they had found a love that was worth fighting for. Their journey had been filled with challenges and obstacles, but they had faced them together, with courage and resilience. And through it all, their love had only grown stronger. As they looked out over their vineyard, surrounded by the lush grapevines and the golden hues of the autumn leaves, Sarah and Jake knew that they had found something truly special. Something that would carry them through the rest of their lives. And as they raised a glass of their award-winning wine to each other, Sarah and Jake knew that they had found their happily ever after on the vineyard.